Calvary Day School, I guess it was about a month and a half ago, and we talked about this exact issue with the students. And this is becoming something that is a serious issue, not just at Calvary, but also at other schools. In fact, at every school, this is becoming an issue. There are certain things that in our lifetimes that are big issues. Some of them have been around forever, and some of them are new. And this is one of the experiences, unfortunately, that our kids get to deal with that is new, and that is something that has not been there in the past. The original purpose, well, let's talk about what vaping is, the history of it. It was started in 1963 by Herbert Gilbert. It was created for a good purpose. That purpose was an alternative to smoking tobacco. How many of you guys, by raise of your hand, know the negative effects of smoking tobacco? Now, how do we know that? Why do we know that tobacco is not good for us? That's right. You know the health effects from it. How about somebody that was close to you that you know smoked for years and they're sick, or they got cancer, or maybe they passed away, or they have other health issues related to that? You can't question the negative effects of tobacco. But let me ask you a question. When tobacco started years and years and years and years and years ago, what did they tell you? Oh, it's safe. Oh, it's fine. You're cool if you do it. It's not a problem. There are no health effects from it. We now know, fast forward 50 years, we know the truth. But back then, they didn't know the truth. In fact, if you guys all remember the whole settlement that went on with tobacco, what was a part of the whole monetary settlement? They didn't what? They did not disclose the health information and the dangers of smoking to the consumers. That was the whole point of the lawsuit, was they did not disclose that information to them. Now, what do you have on a pack of cigarettes? What's the warning? This product may cause boom list 1.5 miles long, okay? All on the side of a box of cigarettes, all right? So they have to warn you now. I know you guys have seen commercials, not just for tobacco, but for other products, where they give you 50 million warnings of the side effects of these things. That's why the laws were passed, to give you guys knowledge. But in all honesty, vaping was created for a positive purpose, to try to get people off the harmful effects of tobacco. Since 2007, vaping has become a widely used source for nicotine and other harmful substances. You know, everybody looks, oh, it's just vaping, it's water vapor. That's not the issue. There are negative side effects to just inhaling water vapor in your lungs, but more important to that, it's the harmful substances that are in these products that are causing the problem. Young adults have been marketed to by vaping manufacturers that vaping is a socially accepted behavior and a safe alternative to smoking. Those are their two marketing techniques. Number one, they market to teenagers and to our teens in general, young adults, that it's socially accepted. Oh, everybody's doing it. This is a cool thing to do. And number two, it's a safe alternative to smoking, which sounds like such a good thing. Now, how many of you who can remember when smoking first came out, how many of you remember that it was also marketed as a socially acceptable thing to do? Everybody's doing it. You want to be a real cowboy like the Marlboro man, you're going to smoke like he does. Socially acceptable. Vaping is an unregulated industry with no government supervision or control. At this point, there are no intentions for our government to get involved in regulating vaping until 2021. We're talking 3 years from now is the first time that the government will take this issue up and start to regulate it and start to come up with solutions to these problems. After 11 years in the United States, there are now studies that show the harmful effects of vaping. It's been around for 11 years. It's been marketed for 11 years. You guys, how many of y'all listen to the radio? Raise your hand. Now, depending on what you listen to, his radio, I don't think it's on there, but any other radio station, you got every vaping ad on there. Oh, come to this, Dungeon Dragon this, vaping this, all kind of things. They're advertising on all of your radio stations about how safe it is. There are different types of products. How many of you guys have kids in here? Raise your hand. How many of you have children under the age of 30? Raise your hand. Okay. Those are the ones I'm talking to. All right? I educated myself when I did this research plan for this speech at Calvary. It was amazing. There are all different types of things. Magic Puff. This is the real popular one for the kids. All right? It's very dangerous and it's very harmful, but that's one of them. Another one that they have is you name it, Sagili. It's that click thing that you put the click in and it does it. You've got the different types of vaping oils that they put in the actual vaping mechanism. The oils are where the problem is. You're inhaling and you're ingesting these oils into your system. This is where the danger is. Unregulated industry. You also have cannabinoid oils. This is the most dangerous product that's on the market. For those that don't know, cannabinoid oil is derived from cannabis. Cannabis is marijuana. So this is the derivative of marijuana. Now, we can have a debate at another time between the 8 of us about the benefits of marijuana. We can have that discussion because there's some legitimacy there. I can promise you there is no legitimacy here. All this is for a hit on your vape unit. That's all it's for. There are zero health benefits whatsoever from this. This is the danger. This is where all the red flags are coming up from the federal government about people dying, people having seizures because of this product. It's dangerous and it's unregulated. Vaping from a legal standpoint. Now, I'm going to go through this as if I was talking to teenagers, okay? So just to let you guys know, this is the school students. You guys, all of y'all looking here to be of age. So I'm not specifically speaking to you, but must be 18 years old to legally vape in the state of Georgia. Anyone of legal age who sells or gives a minor vaping materials can be arrested and charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor. It is just like any other controlled substance. Have to be 18. If you're 18, you can legally purchase it. If you're 18 and you give it to someone who is not 18 or less than 18, then that is just like you selling them drugs or selling them something else. Okay, you will be, this is a big, they understand, the legal system understands the things that are going on in our schools, and they're bearing down on things like this. If they know that you contributed, you will be charged with delinquency of a minor. Police are very aware of the vaping epidemic in young adults and are taking serious action. Anyone under the age of 18 caught vaping or in possession of any vaping paraphernalia are subject to one or more of the following. They treat this just like they do any other illegal drug, marijuana specifically. This is your first offense. They confiscate all vaping paraphernalia. They will give you a citation for vaping underage. They give community service for up to 30 hours. Multiple offenses can result in 100 hours of community service, suspension of your driver's license, or possible probation. Now, is this a major top priority for the police officers? Probably got a little bit more going on in this city than underage vaping, right? So I'm going to make a challenge to all of y'all who raised your hands earlier tonight and said, yes, I have kids, because I have 4 of them. My oldest is 16. This is my life. This is what we as parents have to be aware of and know what's going on so we can make sure that our kids are safe. School policy on vaping, just to let you guys know what Calvary's policy is. Number 1, vaping is strictly prohibited on Calvary campus no matter the age of the student, period. Period. You get caught vaping on campus, there are ramifications and punishment for it. It's strictly forbidden. Just like smoking, just like drinking, all of those things, this is in that category. Oops. Can I go back? What? Back. Thank you. First offense, if you're caught with vaping or any vaping paraphernalia, you're subject to the following punishment. Number 1, confiscation of the vaping material, and you have a 2 to 3 day suspension from school. All right? You're brought before the administration. You know, you admit what you did, and you get a 2 to 3 day suspension. Second offense is confiscation of the vaping material again. And by the way, this stuff's not cheap. Just so you guys know that. One of the main questions I had to the kids is, how do you get your money? Where do you get it from to buy this stuff? And I'll challenge parents in a minute about that. Second offense, confiscation, 5 to 7 day suspension. Third offense, you're done. You're removed from school. This is strict, okay? This is strict. This is strong policy. Calvary has one of the strongest school policies on vaping of any other school in Savannah. And we're strict on it because we know that this is a problem, and we're trying to nip it in the bud now so that in 2 years from now, when it's an epidemic, some people would say it is now, we're ahead of the ball game, and kids know you get caught, you're done. And teachers are educating themselves on what to look for. You know, one of the rule for the teachers is follow your nose. Because if you know anything about vaping, they're not going to vape just water. They're going to vape bubble gum, flavored oil. They're going to vape orange flavored. They're going to vape grape flavored. They're going to do all this crazy stuff. So a teacher walks down the hall, oh, that's such a oh, they're vaping. Boom, they go find them and get it taken care of. Unfortunately, it's not potpourri. They may vape that too, but that's a whole nother issue. All right, school policy on vaping. Any image of a Calvary student, this is huge, guys, and this is your kids if they go to Calvary or not, but this is particularly any image of a Calvary student participating in any vaping-related activity that are posted on social media. Now, I'm not crazy about social media in a sense. I don't have all the stuff, but Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, etc., there's a punishment for that. You got a lot of high schoolers and middle schoolers that are posting on their Instagram and their Facebook and everything else pictures of them vaping. That's an invitation for the cops to get involved, and that's an invitation for the administration to get involved. Oh, I'm just sending it to my friend. Yeah, how many times have we heard that? Oh, I didn't send that out. Yeah, well, 1,000 people now have it in their possession. That's the way social media is. First offense, consultation with the students and parents at Saturday school. Second offense, Second offense, second consultation with a student or parent with a 2-day suspension. If we catch you the third time, there's a 5-day suspension from school with possible removal. Okay, and that's just posting it on social media. So this is how serious the problem is, but also how serious that not only our school, but other schools are taking this. I want to show you a couple of videos of the ugly side of vaping. You've seen the cool side where they're smoking and it's vapor and it's not smoke, so they can do it inside all different kind of places, which they're catching on to. Airports don't allow it and all these other spots. But I want to show a couple of videos of just some incidents that can occur with a vaping machine. Remember, it is an electronic instrument. It is not just you have to charge it up. It is an electronic device. And with electronic device, you can have problems. And I want to show those to you. If we can show that first video. You can see the smoke on his hand. They catch on fire like any other electronic device can. That was in his pocket. And he can't get it out of his pocket. That was also in his pocket. That was in her purse. And those are just a few examples of things that can happen. A lot of these happen with them in their pockets. We have videos that we will not show, but that show they're actually smoking them, inhaling, and it explodes. And can you imagine the damage that it can cause on your lips, your mouth, your jaw, your teeth, your face, if something like that exploded while you were vaping and in the act of vaping? It's very dangerous. And it's not just bad for your health, which we'll talk about in a minute, but it's also a dangerous item to have. You've got moisture from your mouth going into an electronic device. It's like sucking on your cell phone. I don't know anybody in here that would do that. And I certainly wouldn't do it on the end that you plug into the charger, but that's exactly what these guys are doing. We have a second video. Let's show that one. You can see the burns on his hand, on his arm, where it had exploded in his hand. And that's how dangerous these things can be. And again, that's just a few of the items that we have. I want to share with you some of the negative side effects and the harmful effects of vaping, okay? So you guys can understand it's not just a dangerous item to be putting on your lips. It's also a dangerous item to be putting into your body. And we're going to talk about some negative side effects of that. Number one, bleeding of the mouth and gums. There's chemicals in this vape. Those chemicals are absorbed in the softest tissue that you have in your body, which is in your mouth and your gums, and they're being absorbed. So bleeding in the mouth and the gums, mouth sores, that's obvious from it being contacted in your mouth, dry mouth and skin, a rash or burning sensation on the face, itchiness, puffiness and or dry eyes, persistent cough, aka smoker's cough. There are studies now that show, everybody thought, oh, it's a safe alternative because coughers, you got the smoker's cough, you got the what we call parenchyma in your lungs, which it lines your lungs and it thickens it and you feel like you just can't get it up. It's just that smoker's cough. Well, guess what? Vaping has the exact same thing. The exact same liquid and parenchyma is on your lungs with vaping as it is with smoking. And nosebleeds. Now, if I told y'all that you were going to experience all of these wonderful things if you vape, how many of y'all going to go out and buy one? I mean, that's like hearing an ad for a pharmaceutical and you got 437 things that could go wrong with this medicine. I don't want to run out and go buy it, but yet our kids still do. And it's a problem we need to address. But those are some of the side effects. Harmful effects of vaping continue. The chemical inhaled can alter the DNA, which can destroy the cells of the body's natural defense system and can slow healing and damage cells. One of the biggest problems with smoking in general, and tobacco specifically, and it's kind of like diabetes, it's not just the negative effects of the smoke. It's that it slows down the rest of your body's recovering mechanism and healing. That's why you'll see smokers with when they cut themselves, it doesn't heal like a healthy person. It takes longer because the cells have mutated and other things have happened that are causing healing to be a lot slower. Cancer-causing chemicals and toxic metals have been found in vapor smoke and added flavorings. The biggest thing on this is the added flavorings. They're carcinogens. They're cancer-causing agents. And we're not just putting them in our lungs, we're putting them in our mouth. It's being absorbed into our bloodstream because it's a liquid. Smoking is at least a smoke. It's not a liquid. This is a liquid. Formaldehyde. How many of y'all have ever heard of formaldehyde? What do we use that for? Embalming bodies. And I'll go into a tidbit for a second. America is one of the countries that uses less embalming fluid than any other country. Do you know why? Because we already have some in our system. They don't just need to add, but just a little more to get us where we need to be on that. Formaldehyde, acetaldehyde, benzene, acrolein are readily seen in e-cigarettes liquid. When heated, can become harmful. See, the key to this is the heat that's generated when you vape. And it literally flash boils it to the point that's where you get your high from. Toxic metals such as chromium and nickel can cause cancer, while manganese can cause damage to the nervous system. See, these are things that we're inhaling and putting into our system when you vape. Diacetyl, also found in vapor, can cause irreversible inflammation and irritation of the lung airways, also called popcorn lung. Now, popcorn lung was real famous before with other things that were inhaled in. This is also causing irreversible lung damage with that particular chemical that's in there. The lungs, bladder, heart, and blood vessels are organs that are susceptible to damage because of vaping. These are all vital organs. They're soft tissue organs. And vaping, unfortunately, affects those as well. Studies in mice found that e-cigarettes may contribute to lung and bladder cancer. Certainly makes sense. You're putting a foreign chemical into your lungs that's being absorbed by your body, going through your bladder, and it's causing those areas to have cancer. Inflammatory lung disorders like COPD and cystic fibrosis can be caused by e-cigarettes. There's a direct link to that. Chronic bronchitis, smoker's cough that we spoke of, can also lead to permanent lung damage. These are things that vaping specifically is linked to, as well as a bunch of other stuff we do. Chemicals found in the vapor can affect blood vessels, which increases the risk of heart disease and heart attacks. These are all great things that vaping can cause. Yet we still continue to see not only our younger generation, but our older generation doing it as well. This is the study that everybody points to, okay? Because they consider vaping to be what's called a gateway drug. How many of y'all know what a gateway drug means? Anybody? That's right. It's the entrance to something else. Because eventually what happens is vaping is not enough. You do it for a month, you do it for 2 months, it's cool, you think it's great. Now you need something else. One of two things. You're addicted to the nicotine that's in it, and you need more of it, or you want to go on to something bigger and better. This study shows teenage vapors are 6 times more likely to smoke cigarettes compared to non-vapors. So remember when I told you in the beginning what was the purpose of vaping? Why was it founded? Alternate. Healthy alternative to smoking. 6 times more likely to smoke because vaping is not enough. It doesn't give them the fix that they're looking for. Nicotine is a very addictive and appears to be more damaging to the developing adolescent brain than older adults. And that makes sense because as you develop as a child from the age of 6 on, your brain is developing. You're learning new neural pathways. As humans, we use a very, very, very small portion of our brain anyway. So all of those are developing pathways. If you're putting these chemicals into your system, you can imagine the damage that it can cause. On February 5th, 2008, when I read this on 2018, the United States Army sent out a warning to its soldiers. This is the United States Army. These are kids between the age of 18 and, let's say, 35 area. Synthetic cannabinoid oil dangers after dozens of soldiers in multiple locations suffer from serious medical problems. There was a serious incident that occurred at the beginning of this year where there were multiple military sites of so many people that were not only vaping, but specifically vaping this cannabinoid oil that there was deaths, there were seizures, major medical issues that the United States Army issued a statement. That's pretty serious. 60 soldiers and Marines in North Carolina and 33 troops in Utah were hospitalized after synthetic cannabis. 2 Marines have died in accidents blamed on synthetic cannabinoid-induced seizures. We have stories, and I particularly have stories from other doctors that I know that their patients. There was, and one was a great example, actually in the presentation that we did. One of our teachers at Calvary were in the emergency room for a kid that got hurt or something, and a person did vaping for the first or the second time and had a seizure that lasted over 2 hours. And they left the hospital and they were still in the seizure. That's how serious this is. This chemical bypasses the blood-brain barrier, which usually protects your brain from the chemicals that we input. It's busting through that, and that's why it's causing these seizures. It's a major, major issue. In January of 18, which is just earlier this year, poison centers across the United States receive 135 exposures to synthetic cannabis in January alone. Drug Policy Alliance reports there were approximately 300,000 ER visits associated with synthetic cannabinoids in the United States. This is a serious, serious problem, and it's something that we have to get ahead of. We reviewed the school policy, which is not necessary, but this is what I want to challenge you guys with, not just for your kids, but your grandkids, for some that have it and others. One of the biggest problems that we as a school and Dr. Taylor specifically has with some of his kids is he'll bring them in the office and say, okay, dude, you got busted. You were doing it in the bathroom. We caught you. This is going to be your punishment. What's going on? What do you have to say? And they'll say, Dr. Taylor, the biggest problem is that me and my parents vape every night watching, a movie. We'll sit there and vape as a family at the dinner table. That's a problem, guys. That's a problem. They don't know. Okay, well, I understand it's against school policy, but my parents do it. My parents let me do it. So there's no barrier to them of it being wrong because their parents do it. I challenge every one of you guys in here today, if you're vaping, I want you to seriously consider stopping right away. Not just for your health, but for the health of the people that see you doing it. Because as kids, we do what our parents do. And I learned that the hard way sometimes, the really hard way. My kid drives really fast. And it makes me really nervous because I drive fast. So I'm trying to tell him, Jay, you got to slow down. And he just kind of looks at me. I'm like, do as I say, son, not as I do. That doesn't go very far. The point is, they're going to do what we do, guys. So I challenge us as parents to take a stand and say, you know what? I know it's okay over the age of 18 to do it. But we're not going to do it not just because of that. We're not going to do it because I want to set the example to my kids and to my grandkids, etc., that this is not okay to do. And I challenge parents to do that on a regular basis. And when they ask, what can I do? What you can do is set the example, because that's the most important part, and educate them. All right? Any questions? Anybody have any questions at all on this particular? Yes, ma'am. The zero is pure water vapor. It is zero involvement of any other chemicals, and that is very rare anymore. It's very rare. Yep, it's very rare, and they consider that pure water vapor. Well, I will tell you that popcorn lung was created because of that. When you have water in your lungs, we call that pneumonia when you get diagnosed. That's part of the other problem with that. But it is certainly to a lesser extent, but it is still vapor. Yeah, it's a great question, and yeah, of course, that's right. You're exactly right. I will tell you that the same answer that I told you with tobacco, okay, and that is it took them years to figure out the first-hand effects. They weren't even thinking about the second-hand effects. There are zero studies, legitimate studies, on second-hand effects. But this is what I will tell you. When you're vaping that and you're blowing that out of your lungs, it is the same chemical that's going in your lungs. Now, because you are breathing that, I certainly think that I can put one and one together and say that you're being, exposed to the same chemicals as they are, probably to a lesser extent. But then you don't even know, okay, we're blowing out carbon dioxide. Well, does carbon dioxide combine with these chemicals different than oxygen does? Because you're bringing it in with oxygen, you're breathing it out with carbon dioxide. The studies have not shown anything yet, but it will. It'll take 20 years, and guess what? There'll be a big, huge lawsuit in 20 or 30 years on this industry, but the same way that it was with the tobacco industry. Any other questions? Somebody raise their hand. Any other questions?
Yeah, you said about law enforcement. They going to be
That's a great question, and obviously I'm not in law enforcement. I cannot answer that. What I will tell you is, in the city of Savannah in the United States, it is legal for you to smoke it over the age of 18. So, that's what I will tell you. If you're under the age of 18, that's where they're going to be searching for them rather than others. But that's a great question. I do too. I treat 90% of the cops in this city. And I have had these discussions with them as well. So I know exactly what you're referring to, and you're right. But, they are of legal age. And, there's no rule that says they can't. You're exactly right. Yeah. It's funny, we had the discussion the other day. As a physician, and I am a chiropractor, so I get I get up front and personal with my patients. I touch them, I adjust them, I move their back, I touch their shoulders to check things. And so we get very intimate. I could point to you, and in 1 second I could tell you who vapes, who smokes, and who doesn't. I can tell you. And you can smell the difference between them. But it's just like smoking. You know when a smoker is involved. You know their smell, their clothes, and other stuff. It's the same with vaping. And it's just there is an aura about them. And, it is what it is. So. All right, any other questions? Anybody have any legal questions or any comments, anything? All right, well, thanks for this opportunity. I know we're done a little early, but I think that's all right too. So,
all right,
thank you guys.